Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Runge, and I want to welcome you to our quarterly Zoom presentation, which we offer for our clients and friends and colleagues to provide you with important resources about wellness. Couple of housekeeping issues. The webinar is being recorded. Most of you are probably familiar with Zoom. If for some reason you want to remain anonymous, feel free to turn off your camera and use the rename feature on Zoom if you'd rather that your name not be visible. I want to introduce you to Hannah Holman. She's going to be our speaker today. A little bit about Hannah. Hannah, before she became involved in fitness, she grew up in Maine. She received her BS in physics and a PhD in geophysics from Purdue University, and she later worked at MIT Lincoln Labs. So Hannah, first of all, you have to tell us a little bit how you made that transition from that type of a background to fitness.
Absolutely. I was an aspiring planetary scientist wanting to know more about the universe and, why Earth is different, why there's life here. And I pursued that, obviously got my degree in that, and quickly realized that it's, with using proper words, it was kind of a lot of BS. Like nobody really knows, there's some speculation, but it's a lot of people in a room arguing that their theory is right and, and my theory is wrong or whatever it was. So I found it very interesting, but I didn't find it very impactful. I didn't find it to be what I thought it would be. So I took my skill set, my technological skill set, which was a lot of computational modeling of scientific data that we did have, and used that when I interviewed for a job at MIT Lincoln Lab. With that, I then studied biochemical warfare. So we were trying to understand if somebody releases anthrax or sarin gas or whatever biochem threat they were releasing, where does it go? Does it go through the ventilation of a building? Does it spread through a city in the alleyways or down the street? Like how do you stop the spread and how do you detect it? It was all very much the same computational science I had done in graduate school. I found that interesting and much more impactful, but then children came along and I love my children, but I also found the corporate life to not gel well with what I wanted to do as a mother or what I wanted to do. I had a hard time balancing corporate life and raising children. And while I was at MIT Lincoln Lab, they had a fitness center there. And I met my now best friend there as well. And she, just for fun, was teaching step aerobics classes in the evening. She was going on maternity leave. I hadn't had my children yet, but we started conversing, and she said, you should start teaching fitness classes. And I'd always wanted to do that on the side. I just didn't have a lot of time to do it. So I took that on. I started teaching her classes while she was out. And then that fitness center offered me a position to teach at noontime, to do a boot camp class. So I took that. And then even when I had my son, I would still sometimes come back in the evening, even while on maternity leave, to teach classes. And I just found a huge passion for fitness. And I really loved going to the gym to teach my classes, and I dreaded going to my job. And so I realized maybe I should make a career change. So after being at home for a bit, I went back to work after maternity leave, but then just decided this isn't for me. So, but I'm also a motivated, professional woman who wanted more than being at home. I wanted something else. So I continued to pursue further fitness certifications and had my own mom and baby fitness franchise for a while. And as the kids grew out of that and got older, I then just decided, you know what, I'm not going back to corporate life. I'm going to pursue fitness.
So what's your current position?
So currently, I am the health and wellness or healthy living director at the Burbank YMCA in Reading, Massachusetts. I've been at the Y or with the Y, for about 9 years. And at the time when I started, I did not want to go into a management position. I still wanted to be home. I wanted to balance. I wanted to have that work-life balance. And with personal training, group exercise, I could design my day around my children's schedules. Now they're older, they're in middle school. I now had the opportunity where they don't need me home all the time. They basically just need an Uber driver to take them. That would be take them everywhere. So, but now I can put myself into a full-time position. And so, I'd already been there. The other directors at the branch knew who I was and knew, what I could do. And so I applied and got the job.
And this is why I've asked Hannah to allow me to interview her, because she's got some great tips for us about developing a healthier level of fitness. So without further ado, Hannah put together a fantastic PowerPoint, and I'm going to share the screen and we're going to start the presentation. Okay. So we'll start with this. All right. Hannah, can you tell us a little bit about setting SMART goals?
Yeah. So, when you first dive into, I want to get healthier, or I want to be more fit, or whatever that is that you are striving to do, the most important thing, but also the first thing you should do is set goals. Whenever we meet with new clients at the Y, the first session is always, what are you looking for? What do you want to accomplish? And how could we help you get there? And so a lot of people, a lot of companies, corporations, wellness coaches will always say, set SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. So when you are moving towards a healthier version of you want to have first a specific idea. What is it that you want to do? Do you want to increase your aerobic activity? Do you want to lose weight? But by saying lose weight, what does that mean? You need to dive down into that. And so your first part is just that specific thing. What do I want to do? And then it needs to be measurable. How many days are you going to be doing your aerobic activity? How much weight do you plan to lose? Like, what is that goal? Is it 1 pound a week, a half a pound a week? Something that is not like, I want to lose 30 pounds by Christmas. Like, that's just not going to happen. So you want to be realistic about it. So that's what the next point is, the achievable part. It needs to start small and be realistic. So yes, I want to increase aerobic activity. I want to start at 3 days a week for 10 minutes. Like that's measurable. You can measure 10 minutes. And is that achievable in your daily life, in your work schedule, whether you have children, whether you have parents that live with you, whatever that is, how can you fit that in? It needs to start small and realistic so that you can keep up with it. So it doesn't become like, oh my word, I'm so tired, but I said I was going to do an hour. Don't do that. Set it up. I got 10 minutes. I can do that. That's easy.
Hannah, how do you help folks who maybe they've set goals and they've made progress and then they fall back? Any other recipes for success?
And that's very common. And that's actually part of the success of getting forward is failing. And in fact, in fitness, we almost sometimes treat failure as a success. It's a learning moment. So when something gets, if you want to call it failing, when you are not meeting that goal, or you're trying to do something and it's not working, then something has changed in your life. There's usually something in your daily life. There's some change, whether it's your child's schedule changed, your schedule changed, something came up last minute. There's usually something that triggers you to stop or not meet that goal. And so the best thing to do is sit back and say, why am I not doing that? What is preventing me? It allows you to reevaluate what is currently going on and preventing you from getting to that goal. And so when those kind of roadblocks happen, it's a great time to not just say, I'm failing, I'm giving up, it's not working. It's let's reevaluate. My life's changed, my job hours changed, my child's got 5 different sports and activities going on. So you need to sit back and say, okay, let's go back to square one. I still want to increase this or do this. I need to be able to measure it. Now, where can I fit this in? What can I do? What can I change? And not let that roadblock stop you completely, but allow you to say, nope, that's okay. Let's reevaluate.
So keep trying, keep
trying, but it's a reevaluation point.
Mhm.
So it's a time to stop and say, I can do this. It's just not working. Whatever I've set up is not working right now. So let's come up with a new plan to make it work. And that might mean 2 days a week for 10 minutes that you're doing activity, or maybe you're changing that activity. You drop your child off, but then you've got to run to the grocery store and then you've got to do this. So, okay, that day's not going to work. Let's look at a different day, but don't let yourself get discouraged by that. Just, stop. You can stop, but just reevaluate.
Okay. Should I go to the next slide?
Well, I'll just finish up and say, with the results oriented and the time based, that's where, we just kind of talked about results. Like you can track what you're doing, see that it's working, that you're actually completing your goals. And again, if you're not, that's that time to reevaluate. But then it's time based too. I want to do this for 2 months or 3 months. And so you're not saying, I'm just gonna, increase aerobic activity. Well, what does that mean? So if you have, say, by the end of month 1, if you've accomplished it and it's working, then maybe you can add to it. Or maybe it's working and that's all you can add, then keep going with that.
Okay.
All right, you can go to the next slide.
All right.
So I chose aerobic activity because it's extremely important as human beings that we have aerobic activity in our life. The Department of Health and Human Services recommends 150 minutes of moderate activity per week or 75 minutes of vigorous activity per week. And like I said, that can be spaced out, over the 7 days. Ideally, you're not doing 150 minutes on Sunday at the end of the week, that you're able to get some in elsewhere. But throwing in 2-3 days of a little bit of moderate activity, a fast-paced walk, jogging in your living room, whatever that is going to help with your stress levels. It's going to help with your cardiovascular health. It's going to help your body as a metabolic machine to burn calories and not get out of breath, when you go up the stairs. And so, yeah. Go ahead.
How does it change based on someone's age? What things do you think about, or what do we have to think about?
Yep. So as you get older, the numbers don't change too much unless there is something that is debilitating. So, if you aren't able to walk very well or walk at a good pace, that'll obviously come down, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for the normal human, that's capable of just even walking, until you get to that point where it's not a feasible activity, the numbers don't change too much. The strength training part is also equally important in terms of muscle strength, not necessarily muscle building, but for women in particular, to prevent bone density loss, even at 70 years old, 75 years old. I have women that come to my classes, in their 70s. You don't want to have full-on osteoporosis, and part of prevention of a lot of diseases in general come from aerobic activity and strength training. Even just keeping active between the aerobic activity and strength training can help with balance, can help prevent falling, which is something that also happens as you get older. You hear about people falling, but the more strength you have in your bones and in your muscles will help you be a more active and more healthy and more well-balanced adult as you get older. One of the common, go ahead.
What about somebody who maybe hasn't been active for a long time? You know, maybe they had an injury or they've just been so busy with their work and they want to start on a process, but 150 minutes might seem like an awful lot.
Yep.
How do you?
Yeah, so the 150 minutes say would be your goal. That would be your I want to get to that. And so the way that you do that is you start slow. Start, like I said, maybe with 30 minutes a week, 10 minutes, 3 times a week. And you do that for 1 month. And then you get, to month 2. Okay, I'm doing that. It's working. Now I'm going to increase it to 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Now you're at an hour. Great. Now, if you can keep up with that, you just keep adding on until you can get to that. And maybe, on the weekends where you might have more time or a day of the week that you have more time, you go out for a walk with a friend and walk for an hour. It doesn't have to be, like you're power walking. It just needs to be like a moderate paced activity. And if you were able to do, an hour walk with a friend, or maybe you're on the treadmill and talking to, you're instead of sitting on the couch talking to that family member, you get on a treadmill, you go to the gym, read a book or sit on a bike, read a book for an hour. And then your other 3 days a week at 20 minutes, you're now at 2 hours a week. You're pretty close to that 150-minute mark.
Okay. So we should be thinking about 450 minutes. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, no, I would never recommend just starting right into it. You want to ease into it. Very, very baby steps. Everything's just, a little bit at a time.
Okay. Shall I go on?
We can go on. Yep. So the most important thing when exercising and adding it into your life, especially if you're not a person who likes to go to the gym or likes to exercise, is to do something that you find fun. Having an accountability partner, that's my third point on here, is probably the best motivation to get you to exercise. And that could be hiring a personal trainer, that could be getting your neighbor or a friend or somebody that lives close to you that you like to hang out with, and going out for walks or going to the gym together or going to a spin class or something together. Someone that is going to show up, and that if you don't, they're going to say, "Where were you today?" So that's, I feel, is one of the best ways to keep yourself accountable to hitting your goals. But again, you want to do something that's fun. So if that's, walking outside or hiking, joining a sport, pickleball is really huge now, joining a pickleball league, joining, whatever, badminton or ping pong or whatever it might be, joining a group that is exercise oriented or sports oriented. If you're not one that doesn't like to be in groups, find or purchase an exercise app on your phone or on the computer that is like they're going to have a new class every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm going to jump in with that.
So like Apple Fitness or Peloton, or the Y probably has something similar too.
Exactly. I have several clients who have step trackers, and they try to get in their 10,000 steps every day, and they will sometimes be watching TV at night and they're, at 9,000, and they'll just start marching, they're watching TV. So, it needs to be something that's fun and motivating so that you continue with it. And again, it might be just setting that goal. Like, I want to do this so that I can get there. A lot of people like to do 5Ks and not necessarily run them, but to just be able to walk for 3 miles. So maybe your goal in 2023 is I want to walk a 5K in May. So you start with walking 5 to 10 minutes a day and just keep adding on and adding on until you get to where you're walking, an hour, 2 or 3 times a week. So that
What
you
are,
can do that.
what are some of the benefits of, we talk about getting healthy. So what can people expect if they want to take this on?
Yeah, so it's not instant, and that's this is the time of or the day and age where everybody wants instant gratification, and it's going to take time for your body and yourself to feel the benefits. And most people will say that they have more energy. You just feel less tired. You feel stronger. Your ability to manage stress is better. There was a slide I was going to post up, but I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, and it went through all these, like, what if I could tell you that there was a drug, I guess, for better sleep, more energy, better I'll say attitude is not the word that they use, but just a better demeanor to yourself, lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure. There was just a whole slew, and it said, and what if I told you it was free? And the answer was, it's exercise. And so we have all these conditions, and there's more than what I just listed. I mean, it does go from like heart disease all the way through even preventing some cancers with exercise. And we are so quick to say, I've got high blood pressure, I need to go on a medication, or I've got high cholesterol, I'll just go on this, and then continue your normal lifestyle. Because it's easier in some ways to just pop a pill and be done with it. But rather than doing that, if you just exercised a few times a week, it could just help so much more in your body, and prevent a lot more that could be coming down the road.
Okay. I've had some folks say that, depending on where they are in their sort of their fitness level, they might be uncomfortable going to a gym. They feel like they have to look a certain way before they go to the gym. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. And I personally just worked with a client in regards to this. If you are comfortable and or have the financial means to do so, hiring a virtual personal trainer to help you feel better, both inside and out, to get you to where you might feel more comfortable leaving the house. And maybe not, maybe you just stay, in that zone of working from home, but getting someone, whether it's, a virtual personal trainer, or finding that app like we were talking about to get you to where you're feeling better about yourself, is probably the best answer I have for that. And the example I have is, I had this client who was coming into the gym at the Y. She was working with a different trainer, and she had decided during the pandemic that she wanted to do virtual personal training. She suffers from asthma. She did not want to go into the gyms once the gyms open, and she just was not feeling great about herself now that the gym, everything was kind of back to normal. The gym's open, but she wanted to come into the gym because it was just not enough equipment at home. And she finally got to a point where she had lost a little bit of weight, was feeling more confident, not as breathy, and started coming back into the gym. And she said that just coming into the gym and like seeing someone in person, like, made her whole day feel better.
That's great. Can I go on to the next slide?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
All right. So yes, the biggest hurdle in exercising is just finding the time. In our busy lifestyles, that's probably one of the biggest statements people make when you say you should start exercising. And then they're like, when? So breaking down your day and trying to figure out what is going to work. That, remember that SMART goal, what is realistic? What are you going to be able to do? Like I said, I have that client with the Fitbit that gets her steps in. If she doesn't have them in while she's watching TV, she stands up and starts marching or doing high knees or whatever, walking circles around her house. Do you sit and eat lunch, with a group? Maybe you do that twice a week and, eat your lunch, while you're walking, or eat it when you come back from your walk. Try to find time in your day where you say, I could do this. Like, myself included, I will eat lunch at my desk and then go out and jump. I mean, I do work at a gym, so it's a little easier, but I will eat my lunch at my desk while I'm working and then go out on the elliptical for 20 minutes. I used to do that when I worked in corporate world. I would eat at my desk. I hardly ever ate with my, my friends at work. And then I would go out for a run, on Fridays if it was nice out. I forced myself to find the time to be able to do it. I state down here as a pro tip, but if you, when you come home, and if it's nice out like a day like today, you come home and you've just gone to the grocery store and you've got to bring the groceries in and you've got to do this and get dinner. Take 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, take a walk around your neighborhood, take a walk around the house, walk around the house 5 times, like, whatever you can do before you enter that house, just to bring yourself down, calm, find that time for you to be able to then maybe less stressfully manage the rest of your evening, or, after dinner, maybe before you sit down and watch TV or whatever you might do after dinner. Finish your dinner. Don't worry about the cleanup. Don't worry about the mess. Go out for a walk or go on your treadmill or whatever you have. Just find 5 or 10 minutes in your day to take time for yourself, or take your family with you and say, hey, we're going for a walk. Or we used to do family basketball in the driveway for 10 minutes after dinner before it gets dark out in the summer. And I mean, it was just a great way to bond with the family, but also get in a little bit of exercise.
I love that idea. I remember hearing a story of somebody who worked at home and they had an office that they could enter like from the back of the house. And so they talked about how every morning they would, even though they could have gone to the office inside, that they walked out the front door and all the way around through the front door of the office. And the idea was to sort of like set that mindful intention of, now I'm here at work, and then coming out the same way. Now I'm leaving work. Now I'm going home. So I like that. I think that's a great idea.
My husband does not exercise despite being married to a fitness professional. But what he does do, because he knows he should exercise, is he parks super far away from his office. So they have a lot that's up on a hill. And it's actually where the gym is, where I used to work at the same place as him. So you go up, instead of turning right to the parking garage, which is right across the street, he goes up the hill, parks back behind the fitness center to the buildings back there. Then obviously he's walking down the hill, but then he has to walk up the hill when he's leaving to go home. And I always thought that's great. Like, that's something. And that he did that himself, to force him to walk. I was like, better than nothing.
Great. Perfect. All right.
All right, we can go on. So we'll switch gears a little bit. So going from fitness, obviously that's what I am most passionate about, but it's just part of, what is going to get you towards that healthier version of you. And the next part of it is sleep. And it's just as important as trying to find time for exercise. Like, we're always just trying to find more time in our days, but getting sleep is huge. If you can figure out a way to stick to a schedule where, at 9 o'clock at night, you're, turning off the electronics, you're not drinking a ton of water or alcohol or caffeine, where you might give yourself a half hour to meditate or read a book or do something that's going to relax you, without stimulating you. And then, then you're in bed, hopefully sleeping by 9:30, 10, and then you get up at the same time each day. And yes, that's sort of not realistic because our schedules are all over the place, but at least trying to start some kind of sleep schedule where I'm going to try to be in bed at this time. I'm going to stop, drinking or eating or whatever at a certain time, and I'm going to try to get up at the same time. The more close to a schedule you can get your body to be, the more your body will be able to rest and be able to reduce stress in your body as you rest and get up for the next day. Creating that restful environment. You don't want like bright lights shining in. You want to turn off your phone, make sure it's not dinging at you all night long. I think Cindy and I were just talking about this the other day, like having your alarm clock turned away from you, or if you still have an old school alarm clock, or turning things away so that you don't see that light, so that you don't wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my word, it's 2 a.m. Why am I wide awake? Here's what time it is. Turn it so you can't see it. And, when it goes off, it goes off. I catch myself doing that all the time. If I see the time and then I'm like, oh man. So, but if I don't look at the time, I don't know what time it is, and I'm not worried about it. If you are a daytime napper, try not to do that. That strongly affects your body's ability to go into that REM sleep where your body's getting the most rest. Going back to fitness, make sure you include some kind of activity during the day. And the big thing is managing your worries and stress. You don't want to go to bed worrying or overly worrying about something. It's pretty much impossible to worry about something. But just what I do when I go into my bed is I kind of just think about what I'm thankful for that day. What went well? Maybe I might think about something that didn't go well, but I know how to fix it, or I'm going to try something different the next day. But I really try to focus on the gratitude, being like present in that moment of, okay, this went well. My kids were happy. I have a house. Like, I'm just, thankful for the things that I have, and allow that to sit with me before I go to sleep, so that I'm not all, worried about everything else that didn't go well that day.
I just wanted to glom onto a couple things you said. Being an attorney, sometimes you can imagine it's hard to stop thinking about stuff that happened during the day, just like any of us with, busy schedules. So I've attended different seminars about, how to get better sleep, and following up on what Hannah said, turning the clock away is really important, because when you get up, if you're getting up a couple times that night because you can't sleep, if you keep looking at the clock, it's going to make it worse. And if you look at your cell phone, I made the mistake one time of looking at an email that came in, and I couldn't get back to sleep because it was like a crazy, situation. So I try to just put the phone away and not look at it. There are certain clocks that I don't have an interest in these clocks, but there's one called Lofty, which is kind of cool. It's all about, getting better sleep. And the cadence, or the light, the luminosity is much softer. So it helps keep that, that bright light away from you. But the other thing that I would recommend is, and again, I don't have a financial interest in it, just sharing, but the Calm app. And I actually have some clients who actually recommended it to me. And they have a whole bunch of meditations for falling asleep. And I think it's sort of like having somebody read you a story.
I
In
use
any event.
I use a white noise app, that it's got all kinds of different sounds on it. So, whether you want white noise or you want calming music, like spa music, you can play that. It plays, it's free. It's just called a white noise. It's a crescent mood. And I downloaded that because I have a husband that is a heavy breather. He's not a snorer, but he's a heavy breather, and I couldn't sleep with him. So until we had cell phones, smartphones, we would have a fan running in our room. And but now I have a Bluetooth speaker with my white noise, and it's great.
Yep.
All right.
Next slide.
Yeah, so going back to the Department of Health, they recommend 6 to 8 hours of sleep per night. Some people can get away with a little less, but that's what you want to aim for. And again, you might get up and go to the bathroom or whatever, but try to get yourself into the habit of having at least 6 hours of good quality sleep. Like I said, practice mindfulness before bed. But the important thing is to know, when you might need to seek help, when you might need to go to your doctor and say, listen, like I'm a stress case, I'm not sleeping, I've got all this going on. If it affects your daily routine, it can increase high blood pressure. We're going to talk about this maybe a little later, but I'll talk about it now. Your body produces a hormone called cortisol that is like your fight or flight response. And the more you have in you, the more it can cause you to gain weight, not sleep well. Other health issues are also related to heavy levels of cortisol. So getting lots of sleep helps reduce that. But if you're not sleeping, that increases and it just escalates. So if you find that it's really starting to affect your day, go seek help. You may need some kind of sleep aid to help you either relax or stay asleep.
Okay, I'll move. Next slide.
All right. So finally, the last piece to getting towards that healthier you is diet and nutrition. So when we talk about diets, that's your daily food intake. Like I refuse and I really hate when people say I'm going on a diet. Like, no, you already are on a diet. You need to change your diet if it's not what you want it to be. So the diet is what you eat. And what we need to understand in our diet is understanding your caloric needs. How many calories do I need in my day? And the first thing that most dietitians or nutritionists look at is something called your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate. Basically, all that is if you are lying in bed for 24 hours straight, how many calories is your body burning by your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your blood pumping through your body? So that's just your basal rate of what your body needs to sustain your life so that you stay alive. So if you are a person that's extremely sedentary, your caloric needs will probably be just slightly above the BMR. And there's calculations that take into account your age, your height, your weight, all of that, your activity level. So where they take this BMR is they then use it in this equation called the Harris-Benedict equation. It's two nutrition doctors that developed this. That basically take into account like all the stuff from your basal metabolic rate, and then they throw on a calculation based on your activity level. So are you super active? Are you an athlete, professional, football player, or you're an aging adult that maybe walks 20 minutes a day 3 times a week. So it goes from like a 1 where you're pretty sedentary to a 2 where you're like, I never sit down until I go to bed. And what that basically gives you is what your nutritional calories, what your daily caloric, calories are needed for that, for each day, for your activity level to sustain the weight that you're at now, to sustain where you are now. Most people range somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 calories a day. Give or take, again, their activity level. So somebody that's not active is obviously going to have less calories, someone that's more active. So why is this important? Let's go to the next slide.
Sure.
All right. So with the amount of calories that your body needs, if you were wanting to lose weight, you would obviously reduce your calories, but you wouldn't want to go below your basal rate because that could start affecting your bodily functions. So take into account that Harris-Benedict equation of how many calories you're to sustain where you are now. You can reduce, say, by 50 calories or 100 calories or however many calories you want to reduce to lose weight. So that's one use of that equation and understanding your calories. The second use is then just breaking down those calories into your macronutrients. So once you've decided, okay, I'm eating 2,000 calories a day, I want to lose, say, a pound a week, maybe you cut out 200 or 300 calories each day. And then you're trying to decide how many what calories am I cutting out? Like, oh, well, I usually eat, a sweet potato at lunch. I'm going to count that out so that I can now have, a beer at lunch. Like, no, that's not really the best way, to do that. Or I'm going to, you don't want to substitute anything. So you want to start with, what are the things that I know I should cut out and start little. It goes back to that, making those baby step changes. Are you eating a bunch of carbohydrates like pasta before bed? Could you just have, the chicken and the salad before bed, or how much fat are you eating in your day? Could you swap out that beef burger for a turkey burger? Like there's ways where you don't have to sacrifice things, but make changes in your diet so that you are able to reduce calories without necessarily completely sabotaging your diet, because you're not going to stick to it. If it's something that you're like, no, I like having this, well, change it up a little so that you can still have it. I switched from, they were kind of fatty chicken sausages to a different brand of chicken sausages that were both lower in sodium and lower in fat. So I still get to have my chicken sausages, but I just, don't have the old ones. And it wasn't that big of a change. I like bacon. I did switch from regular bacon. It's still better than chicken bacon, but at least, when I want to have bacon on a more regular basis, I'll eat my chicken bacon instead of, regular bacon. And then, every now and then I'll go and have my regular bacon. So if you're looking at a normal person's carbs versus fat versus protein, as you're looking into your, your calories and your macronutrients are your carbs, fat, and protein. Typically around, if you use a food tracker, around 40 to 50% of your day should be carbohydrates, 15 to 25% fat, 35 to 45% protein. Most people are usually too high in the fat and too low in the protein. And if you just swap those around, you'll still feel just as full as you do when you eat your fat, because the protein will stay with you longer. It's slower to digest and will help you stay fuller longer. It's just, people would rather eat peanut butter than plain chicken. But if you can make that little change, you'll see a difference, not only in the amount of calories that you've cut out, but the types of calories that you've cut out.
Can you talk a little bit about sugar and how that impacts diet.
Yeah, so sugar, that's one of the first things I always tell people to look at in their diet. Where, are you eating a lot of sugar, and where are you eating it? Is it soda? Is it ice cream? Is it cookies? But sugar, even though it's no fat, it sticks to you. It sits in with you. It raises your blood glucose levels to where you feel satiated at first. And then if you don't do anything to burn those calories, it just sits with you. And then as your blood glucose level comes down, you crash. And then you're like so hungry, like shaky, hungry, like I got to eat right now. And then you go running to your fridge or wherever you go to get something to just fill you up. And so it causes these uneven blood glucose level spikes that, one, are just unhealthy in terms of regulating your diet. But then if you don't burn those calories, they turn into basically fat and store in your body. So not cutting out completely, but regulating your amount of sugar will help your body stay even throughout the day, where you don't have these crashes of, okay, I'm full. Now I'm like, oh my word, so hungry. I need to eat something. And if you're eating good complex carbohydrates throughout your day, they'll keep your blood sugar more even. So complex carbohydrates like oatmeal, sweet potatoes, anything that's not white, brown rice, whole grain breads, anything that's whole grain and not white rice, white bread, white pasta. So if you use those in place of your sugars, so to speak, it's the difference of having like oatmeal versus Captain Crunch for breakfast. Like, yeah, my kids would rather have Captain Crunch, but I'm like, no, you're going to have oatmeal or Cheerios. So that's always the first thing I ask people, and ask them, where can you cut that out? You can go, one of the great resources is the food pyramid. Myplate.gov is the latest, greatest food pyramid by the government, but it focuses on 5 groups of food, 5 good food groups, and the ratios of each. And it really limits your amount of dairy and fat. So dairy isn't bad for you, but your body doesn't necessarily need it. And so it really focuses on fruits, vegetables, grains, and like legumes, beans, and things like that. It also gives you a lot of tips on eating on a budget. So it's often more expensive to buy healthy food. Buying, fresh vegetables is more expensive than buying canned vegetables. So there are lots of tips and tricks on the website that can help a person on a budget be more mindful about what they're purchasing at the grocery store. The best thing to do when you're at the grocery store is shop the perimeter. So the perimeter has like your eggs, maybe some yogurts, again, limiting the milk part of the dairy. But your eggs, then you have your meats. Usually along the one aisle, you have your fruits and vegetables on the other outside. So most of your stuff should come from the perimeter. There should be less stuff from the aisles. And then meal preparation is huge. So when if you're a person that goes to the grocery store once a week or a couple times a month, think about what are you going to make for that week or for the next few meals. Writing down, on your grocery list, the ingredients to something that you're going to make, so that you have a plan in place for what you're going to eat, what your snacks are. If you want to buy like hummus and carrots or whatever you want to pack for snacks, that you have that go-to for like when you have that crazy day, that you're not just grabbing something, that you're grabbing something healthy to eat.
Makes sense.
Right. Yeah. So don't go on a diet, set up for success, making small changes, again, cutting out sugars, cutting down alcohol, cutting down on late night eating. So the tip I give here is explore the foods that you enjoy that will fill you up. So the protein and the complex carbohydrates. Try, explore. It might take you a couple weeks to figure out what you like, what change you're going to make, that you might be taking something out that you absolutely, love. And that doesn't mean it goes away forever, but it's not part of your normal day. But what could you replace it with that is better for you and still fills you up and is still kind of fun to eat? The other important thing is to front load your day. So your body is like a car, it's a machine, and you want to give it the fuel to get through the day. So like when your car is full, you don't pull into the gas station and add more to it. You wait, until it gets empty and then you go. And so each day your car starts empty, your body is empty. You need to fill it up, front load it with the things that are going to get you, the foods that are going to get you through your day. And then as the day goes, it's, by the time you go to bed, there shouldn't be a whole lot left in the tank. So you want to have your bigger meals for breakfast, your complex carbohydrates, your good fats, your proteins, same thing at lunch, complex carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, filling yourself up. And then you might have a midday snack, especially if you are up late at night, good, healthy, like granola bars, not ones that have a lot of sugar. So be careful on those. Fruit is a great afternoon snack, like apples, things with fiber in them, raspberries, any kind of berries. And then your dinner should not have any carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are your fuel. They're your energy source. That's where your body goes to get energy from. First carbohydrates, then fats, then proteins. And so you want to burn those carbohydrates throughout your day. Allow the fat to be spaced out through your day so your body stays on that even level. You don't have those spikes, so that it stays even keeled and full. And then your dinner, you want to eat a lot of protein and vegetables. That's going to sit with you while you sleep, repair your muscles, allow your body to stay full so you don't wake up hungry. And then you start the whole day over again. Easier said than done.
This is good to have a roadmap, though, I think.
Yeah, once you make that change, like I wake up hungry because I don't eat a lot at dinner, and that's not necessarily a normal American way. We typically will have a bigger dinner, and then you wake up and you're not hungry, and you're in a hurry because you're trying to get extra sleep, and you're running out of the house, and you grab your coffee and a bagel or whatever. But that's not going to fill you up. That's not a complex carbohydrate. So you want, I make my breakfast the night before. That goes back to the meal preparation. So yes, I do try to sleep longer. So when I get up, I grab my coffee or my tea, and my breakfast is already made. I grab it, and if I want to heat it up when I get to work, I can do that.
So planning is key.
Planning is key. Very key. Yeah, so, in conclusion, these are some of the resources that I talked about. We talked a little bit about finances. Of course, I work for the YMCA, so I'll give it a little plug. But the YMCA is such a great place for people to go because whether you can afford it or not, there are so many options for free memberships and reduced memberships and family memberships. Anyone that walks into the Y will get a membership to the Y. And it might mean that you are paying nothing, or $5 a month, or $50 a month, completely based on your financial needs. And there's so much available there for you and your family to become healthy, and not necessarily just fitness. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There's a lot of free and low cost fitness apps. YouTube, there's lots of yoga apps. There's yoga with Adrienne. You can pay for it. She actually asks those that can afford it to pay so that those who can't afford it don't have to pay. So it's a pretty cool concept. And then there are a lot of apps that are under $15 a month that, you don't have to have a Peloton bike or a treadmill. That they have Peloton and Nike and others have fitness classes available on them that you can do in your home. If you don't have weights, you can use soup cans or milk jugs. I had a client who put water in her kitty litter jugs and would use those like as weights to hold and squat with. So that was pretty inventive. And then that's just the link for that Harris Benedict calculator if you wanted to find your daily caloric needs.
Great. And if anyone is interested in getting this PDF, you can shoot me an email and I'm happy to forward this to you. One other link you might look at is those of you who are yogis might be familiar with Kripalu, and Kripalu also has some videos that you can watch. There's one that's really wonderful. It's a restorative yoga video, which is, a really, if you have a very busy job, it's a great way to just kind of help you relax. So with that, I'm going to close this out. And I just wanted to check and see if there were any questions. Oops, I think I raised my hand. All right. Hannah, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about what you do and how we can better use or implement or bring fitness into our lives and wellness. So I really want to thank you again for being willing to do that. So if folks have questions for you about the why, or can they reach out to you to find out maybe about a why in their community?
Yep. You can go to YMCA, just search YMCA, find the one that's closest to you. If they want to email me, they can. It's hholman@ymcaboston.org. And I can answer most of the questions in regards to finding a YMCA or anything related to this talk today.
Great. Well, we're going to conclude with that. And I want to thank everyone for your participation. And we'll have this posted on the YouTube channel and hope to see you again next quarter.
So thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.